Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hello, and welcome to the May 13th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with me, your astrologer, Shelley Overton. I want to welcome you today to the show. We've got a lot we're going to go over today. I decided that I wanted to do a chart analysis for current events this week. So even though we have the usual weekly astrology, there are a lot of current events, and it's always interesting to learn astrology through doing the different charts and looking at them. And, if we break them down, you get a better idea of what that looks like. So let me just see if there's an ability to share my desktop, which I don't have. And honestly, I have never figured out how to share my desktop or an application with this. But that's okay. I'll just put it up. I'll put up the charts. So, okay, anyway, boy, let's just straighten ourselves out, shall we? A little bit. Oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. I have to take that out, but if I don't, I know you'll forgive me. Okay, so let's see. Where do I want to start? I think I'm going to start with what's going on today. And today is Jupiter, and that means that the planet Jupiter is moving into the sign of Pisces, and that happens this evening at 6:36 p.m. Eastern and 3:36 p.m. Pacific. And that is a really interesting thing. I mean, if you give me just a second, I'm trying to rearrange some of my computer components and get a current chart up here. I've got literally five. Oh, yeah. Mercury and the moon are exactly conjunct in Gemini as I started this, and then my aunt just started vacuuming right before I started the podcast. So it's done now, thankfully, and at least we hope. Okay. Off to a little rocky start, but it's okay. I've been having a case of the dropsies for like a week and a half. Have you? I have dropped everything, makeup, coffee, pencils, bags of things, so much stuff. I dropped a hamburger into my car on the seat, and it was a mess. And it's a vegan burger. Anyway, so as I'm starting this is a really interesting chart. We'll put it up. It is let me just give some room so I can put the chart up. There we go. Don't move, okay? So at the midheaven, currently, right now in the sky where I'm at in central Florida, we have the sun at 23 degrees Taurus right up there in the sky. It's actually 1:30, but with daylight savings, of course, it would be just after 12 because spring ahead, so that moves the sky and the positioning. So it is really only 1 degree off the midheaven right now. But Sun is in Taurus. Venus is also up there at 5 degrees Gemini. She is only 5 away from the North Node at 10 Gemini. The Moon and Mercury are at 14. The Moon's at 14:10. Mercury is at 14:37. Mars is at 12 degrees of Cancer and 18 minutes. And then we have to go all the way around to the other side for Pluto at 26 Capricorn retrograde. Saturn is at 13 Aquarius. Jupiter's at 29 degrees and 58 minutes of Aquarius. He's at the bitter end of that sign. Neptune's at 22 Pisces, and he is direct, and that leaves Uranus at 11 degrees of Taurus. So it's going to be an interesting chart, interesting week. And of course, Tuesday was the new moon on the 11th, and let's just see. I've got to clean my glasses here too. Okay, look at the time so I know how long I'm talking for. We don't want to overwhelm you. Okay, yeah, so Jupiter and Pisces, really what I wanted to say, and I know I talked about it last week, but I've really been feeling a lot of this energy, and I think other people have too. And because of this energy, especially so close to Pisces, we've been seeing a week of ramped up energy. Not only Jupiter moving into a water sign and out of an air sign, but also Saturn is in a particularly difficult position to trine and also in conjunct to Mars and Cancer. And the moon being joined with Mercury, right, he's going to retrograde. Let's see what degree he retrogrades at. I think it's a late degree. Let's see, we're in May already. Unbelievable. 24. So, yeah, he retrogrades at 24 on the 28th of May. But so he's not quite as far along as he's going to be when he retrogrades. But really, part of what's going on, and specifically this week with what's going on in the news, is the Mercury stellium with Venus, the moon, and Mercury. And then, of course, Sun goes there in about a week. He'll be in Gemini. And did I say Mercury? I meant in the sign of Gemini. I don't know if I said the sign of Gemini or the sign of Mercury. When you do astrology, for so long, you start associating the sign with the planet that rules it. And sometimes I say the sign instead of the planet and vice versa. That's kind of a hazard of having that instantaneous translation in your mind of the energies. But anyway, Venus, North Node, Moon, and Mercury are all in Gemini right now. And so the Moon, definitely, he rules Cancer. So he is ruling the energy of Mars right now. And so Mars answers to Mercury. But interestingly, because he answers to Mercury, Mercury is joining with the Moon right now as I speak. And so today, 1:41 p.m. Eastern on May 13th, we've got this combined effort of the Moon and Mercury. Well, what does that mean? I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to go back to Jupiter and the Pisces energy and like everything else. I don't even know if I have time for everything I've planned. The Moon is, of course, new and waxing now that he just had his new moon on Tuesday. But in Gemini, it means that he's much more mental. He is not, or he, I'm sorry, the Moon, my apologies. The Moon, she is more mental and analytical. She's communicative. She's chatty and friendly. She's very social. She wants to be heard and talk and effectively take thoughts and ideas and make them into words and stories and write things down, talk about things. Mercury being the ruler of all that, he wants to deliver the message. So with the Moon, which is a manifester, in my opinion, the Moon is an indicator of a manifestation of a story. Moon on Mercury is going to be a story. Yes, it is about homeland. It is about the family unit. And, in Gemini, it's about children. It's about education. It's about telling the story for educational purposes. And that's really the motivator of Gemini, is to teach and educate. There's an analysis energy, but it really is about teaching and educating and expressing information. So that's what we're seeing. And Mercury can be an energy of, lies and duality, but it can also be about alternate points of view. And the Moon is showing us something that relates to how we see our nurturing and our sense of safety. And Mercury is also the ruler of accidents. Started out the podcast with a little accident there on my device, my material world device of technology, which is also a Mercury realm, falling off of my computer there. So that kind of energy is what we're seeing really strongly now. I would say when I look at a chart, just a random chart, and it shows Mercury and Moon conjunct in Gemini, it's like, wow, there's some really potent energy going on right there around what goes on with glitches in electronics and communications and ideas. And, things are going to be a little wonky potentially because the combined potency of those two energies. Add to that the 5-degree Venus, which I just got chills about, and that is your material world goods. It's the merchandise that we buy, things that we use on a daily basis that can, we can have interactions with that are potentially susceptible to wonky energy or energy that may shift and change unexpectedly. And then the north node, of course, the north node, south node axis is very strong energy around connectedness of the world and how we have, the word's escaping me. It's I don't know why I got the word duty. It's not duty. It's actually fate. I don't know why that word escaped. Well, I know why, because Gemini. It's about words. It's about how we interface with our language and our verbiage. So that is the high concentration of what's going on now. It's going to be there and affecting us for probably mid-July. And so we're just mid-May. So it's another 2 months until Mercury in Gemini gets to that 24 degrees retrogrades for 3 weeks and then goes back direct. So this is definitely the shadow period, and we're seeing what we're going to be having to deal with. And that includes news stories. It includes Republican machinations. Today I'm going to talk about Israel. I'm going to talk about Liz Cheney, and I'm going to talk about the state of Israel and the pipeline. All very interesting things that relate to transportation or movement, ideas, and which, I think if you think about Republicans and what's going on with Republicans, you don't necessarily think about those things, but because the Republicans pretty much are led by a Gemini, definitely there is an effect going on with that. Anyway, so yeah, we've got the stellium in Gemini, and the stellium in Gemini, of course, is trine to the Aquarian energy, and that would be Saturn at 13 degrees and then Moon, Mercury at 14. So there's a trine there, and that's going to be a difficult aspect. I know every week I talk to you about this, and I'm going on the record as saying trines are not easy. Trines to me are probably the most difficult energy when it comes to something we don't particularly want to happen. So, and in the sense of air signs, Aquarius, then we're going to be dealing with the multiplicity of Aquarius, the unexpected energy shifting through our lives in a very flash, pop, bang energy. It is really closely associated with the energy of fireworks or bombs, in my opinion. The missiles going through the air absolutely are part of this energy. Hang on one second. Sorry about that little congestion. I always get the congestion and the nose tickling. So right now what I'm looking at is the chart that I'm going to be putting here. Saturn in trine to basically North Node, Moon, Mercury. And so it's going to be the structures, the systems, the government, the overarching authority energy. Yes, in Saturn, to me, Saturn rules like accountants on some level, or taxes, the IRS, government money. And so we are ramping up towards our taxes also this week, because in 4 days we have the 17th, which is the deadline for taxes. And Mercury energy, Gemini energy, administrative type energy, we're going to see, more of a race to get our taxes done this week. Sun in Taurus, it's late degrees, so it's the Capricorn decant. And so it's about the structures, the materiality, ambition, government, authority, and the systems of, we're looking at also a giant tax bill, Saturn, Capricorn, and the materiality of Taurus, the money issues. And in government in America, we're looking to put through a roads bill, which is the Gemini energy. And the structures, the systems, and the physicality, again, is the earth sign. So that's Uranus in Taurus, Sun in Taurus, Pluto in Capricorn. And then we've got the air energy, the ideas, the shifting, the change, the shift. Saturn in Aquarius wants to change it up, wants to be out with the old and in with the new. Aquarius is a new energy following the word, I'm just giving it to you as I get it, stayed, meaning doesn't move, doesn't shift, the stayed energy of Capricorn. So Capricorn historically wants to root in and not make any changes. It's very traditional, very rooted in. We've got Saturn, the ruling planet of Capricorn, now in Aquarius, and saying, no, we got to change. We have to look for new ideas, new ways. Inclusivity with the Aquarian energy, that's a humanitarian sign. Jupiter wants to learn about other cultures. It's educational, spiritual growth energy, last degree, almost last minute. It's within 2 minutes of the last, 59 minutes, and then it shifts to 0 degrees of the next sign. So it's 29 degrees, 58 minutes as I'm recording this, Jupiter in Aquarius. And so we're really seeing that shift from the humanitarian energy and idea. And when Jupiter goes into Pisces, he's going to expand the energy of how we feel about what the humanitarian causes are. So with that, let me see. Okay, so I think I'm going to add one more point before we go over to Israel and Palestine. Saturn at 13 is in conjunct or 150 degrees away from Mars in Cancer. So we have this Saturn structural authority, career, life purpose in Aquarius, learning about humanitarianism, learning about identity and individuality and not being told what to do, and owning your own story around your career, around your life purpose, in a difficult aspect to Mars in Cancer. And the reason it seems to express difficult energy is because the signs don't work together per se. Cancer is about security, home, family, and Aquarius is about independence, detachment from the emotion that Cancer very much feels. And moving on with that independence, it really is an energy of children going out on their own, learning how to be their own person versus being in the home life and wanting to have the security and the structure of family. And they don't appear to be in cooperation. So Mars in Cancer right now is like the energy drive is to be around the family, the connectedness, the interactiveness qualities of family, mother being the central figure of the home life. And then Saturn, learning to be your own person out on your own, you're not wanting to connect to the mom energy. You're having a difficult time with mother energy, with being potentially smothered and smothered. But Mars in Cancer is increasing and ramping up that need for security, while Saturn, which is traditionally where Cancer looks to create the structure and the groundedness of being of the family life towards the authority figure, towards the coordinator of the system, he's in Aquarius saying, no, I don't want to be that authority figure for you anymore. I don't want to be, there and available for you anymore. I want to go off and do my own thing. So there is a disconnect between the actions we want to take, which are very much about security and nurturing of the family life, and what's out there in the world. And what we feel safe about is being disintegrated by Saturn and Aquarius. And the emotionalism that Cancer feels is being thwarted by that authority figure saying, I can't deal with you anymore right now. I just need to be on my own. So if you're going through that particular archetype, that archetype of different signs and feeling the storyline of how those two energies interact is very much in alignment with what we're experiencing right now astrologically. And then the other thing that we're going through in the zodiac is the Neptune energy in Pisces at 22, coming up on the square to Mercury. He's within range, he's like about 8 degrees coming up on that exact square as Mercury continues to move forward. In the next 24 hours, the moon will square Neptune. And that is, I'm finding a lot lately, the moon in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius, really bring up a lot of deep, difficult emotional baggage from death that we're experiencing right now through COVID, because of course Mercury was in Pisces during the whole COVID stellium of last year in January. And, if you want to look more into that, I have podcasts back when that happened within a week of that. So, like the first week and a half of January 2020, you want to go into the archives, listen to those podcasts. It tells you more about the energy of the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. But because of that Mercury retrograde, it was everything was at 13 degrees at that time. 22 degrees, my bad, 22 degrees of Capricorn. But the retrograde of Mercury in Pisces is, of course, now squaring where Mercury is, and his retrograde this particular time. This whole year, we're going to have air sign retrograde, so it'll be Gemini, then Libra, then Aquarius at the end of the year. And so we're really going through how our ideas are aligning with the energies. And of course, early in the year now, we have the air in Gemini with the trine to Aquarius. So it is about how we think of issues going on in our lives and in the world, how we express it, what goes on in the media, what goes on with our phones, what goes on in social media, technology. All these issues are going to be what we're experiencing with the Mercury retrogrades throughout the year. So, and right now I'm just honestly channeling the information, so I'm just giving it to you as it's coming through and not necessarily sticking to my outline. But the Gemini energy is the beginning quadrant of the zodiac as the third house ruler. So it's about the ideas, about the children, the animals, things that we nurture on a small level in some sense. It is plants and animals and technology and appliances and all the kind of the little intricate technological things, the things you fuss with, and the things that are small and detail oriented, but kind of energetically electric or idea driven, those kind of fussy, fidgety energies that we're really learning how to deal with for this retrograde. And then we move in the middle of the part of the year, and let me just double check when the second retrograde happens, which is, man, I wish I could see my vision. When I turned 45, my eyes went, and now I mean, just reading wise. So the second one in Libra happens the 26th of September. And then the final one I think is going to happen over the end of the year, if it even happens. Yeah, it may not. Wow, wait a minute. Did we have one that I missed here? Let me just double check this. I can't believe that. Are we only having two? No, Mercury. Oh, the Aquarius one. Oh my goodness. Okay, duh. The first one of the year was in January. That was the Aquarius. So we started out with the humanitarian. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. So the first retrograde of the year was in Aquarius, and that was bringing us together into that Aquarian state with the Saturn newly in December into Aquarius, and then we had that Aquarius Mercury retrograde. Then the second one now we have is Gemini, so the final one is going to be Libra. And so we wrap the year up with the story around balance and cooperative energy between two faculties, two forces. And so the second one is more about the individual. We started out with the collective because Aquarius is a collective energy, and then we went into the Gemini that now, the middle of the year, is going to be about the cooperation between two individual factions. And the final one of the year is how we as a larger group get along, or as a combined romantic energy or a partnership energy is going to be the end of the year. So that's just kind of the storyline that we're going throughout this year in air. Of course, next year, I don't have next year's ephemeris, but handy. But we will be doing the retrogrades in the next energy. I believe last year was water. It was actually split. It was between, I think, earth and water last year, and now we do air. So next year's probably going to be fire. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, so we've got this whole energy this week of Jupiter going into Pisces. It's going to be about the cooperation of emotional energy with the collective, and how we feel about what's going on in a sentimental way. I'm not going to kid. I already said it. The square between the Gemini energy and Neptune, and then Jupiter going into Pisces. it's going to be really emotional, and how we communicate our emotions from the collective standpoint and getting it out personally. Like, how are we communicating the deep hurt or emotions that we feel in what's going on right now in the world? And that being said, now I'm going to start with some of the more obvious news stories. And I've got the Israeli-Palestinian conflict going on. So what I did for that is I looked at the state of Israel, which, for those of you following along at home, the chart for Israel, Friday, May 14th, 1948, they established the state of Israel. I don't have the time that became a thing, so I just did a sunrise chart. And then, it was basically, that's when they were declared a state. And I just saw, I think John Cusack, the actor, just posted a chart of 4 different decades, or how the state of Israel progressed and Palestine progressed from the time Israel was declared to current day. And at the time, it was the opposite, that Palestine owned that huge chunk of land, and then Israel was declared, and then basically they've reversed the territory and ownership of the land. And I find that really interesting. I'm not going to comment on why these things happen per se, but I am going to tell you what's going on in the chart of Israel and why it's being triggered. And interestingly, as of today, May 13th, they're in a solar return. I've got the sun, so they were founded May 14th. Isn't that interesting? The week of their anniversary of being founded. So 1948, oh my gosh. So my math is really bad when I have to do years. So what's 48 minus 21? So it's 37? No, 21, 27. And so 100 minus 27 is 32 years. So no, that's wrong. Why do I put myself on the spot like this? Let me just write it down. 1948, 2021. I'm sorry to put you through this. 70, you probably already have it, 73 years old. Anyway, 73 years old, and they are in their birthday, basically. They're within 2 minutes of a solar return today. And so, of course, they're going to be feeling that energy of their birth. And, of course, the energy of their birth, it was a division between lands. What else was happening when they were born? Well, Mercury was at 9 degrees Gemini, and Uranus was at 24 Gemini. So not only are they experiencing this solar return, they're also very close to a Mercury return. They just passed their Mercury return. And because Mercury moves so fast, I'm guessing that this whole conflict really started when they were in their Mercury return. Being that their Mercury's in a fast sign of Gemini, and it rules Gemini, so that's going to be the duality of the territory. That may not even really shift until the quicker moving planets of the birth chart of Israel move into something more cooperative, like Cancer energy. Thank you. It's okay. So we've got this, pardon me a minute. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I just got notice that masks are no longer required, and it's to be announced. That's probably Florida, because the governor of Florida is closely linked to our Gemini ex-president. And of course, Gemini ex-president's sun is 16 degrees Gemini. So we have Mercury within 2 degrees of his sun, which means he's going to be awakened by this Gemini energy. My guess is there will also be some type of communication about the Palestine-Israel. Yes, I know you don't like me talking about Gemini. I know that. I'm so sorry, Mercury. But, as an astrologer and a Mercury-ruled person, I have to. So my apologies to Mercury. So he's going to be talking a great deal about what's going on, I'm sure, if he has a means to express that. Okay. I've adjusted the tripod. Hopefully it will not fall again. And part of that is probably that I'm very active, and that's a Mercury in Gemini type thing. Very, very hyper. Okay, so right now we have Venus at 5 degrees Gemini within 4 degrees of Mercury. So that's going to be a feminine influence. So by the time Venus gets a few more degrees on, she's going to really have an influence. So I think women, honestly, my guess is women are going to start protesting what's going on because the children are being affected, which of course Gemini rules the connectedness to schools. It wouldn't surprise me if schools are taking a huge brunt of the battle. I know that 16 children died in Palestine, in the Palestine state. And I think we can all agree at this point, especially with Saturn and Aquarius, that at some point you're going to have to stop fighting and start really having some type of adult conversation. That's going to be my one comment on this whole situation. And who knows what they'll do to my YouTube channel if I give any of this information. But you know what? If you're going to censor me, so be it. I'm still going to have SoundCloud. So there you go. Moon at 14, like I said, he's going to be, or she's going to be, I don't know why I keep saying that, because Gemini is a masculine sign, so maybe that's why I keep giving the moon a masculine energy, and also conjunction to the masculine energy of Mercury, which, can be also debated because it's a very asexual energy, but that's digressing. Moon coming up on Uranus at 24 in the next 24 hours. It's going to be a humanitarian issue. I really think that, yes, these conflicts have happened time and time again, but the energy of what's going on now is strongly influenced by Aquarius with Saturn and Jupiter. I'm hoping that there are no planets in Aquarius for the Israeli birth chart, but Jupiter is in Sagittarius, so there is a connection, and it's at 27 degrees. So having Jupiter at 29 degrees Aquarius, there's a positive aspect, the most positive aspect, honestly, sextile, between Jupiter transiting and Jupiter in the chart of Israel. And so that is a strong independence energy, but Jupiter in Sagittarius, it's also retrograde, so it can act more like Saturn. So it doesn't want to give up anything. It doesn't want to see anyone else's point of view. But the sextile to Jupiter at last degrees of Aquarius is kind of forcing the issue with the natal Jupiter of that Israeli state. I didn't look up Palestine's history. My guess is it's very long, and I don't know if they even have it. Though, I've got time here. I suppose I could. So let's just go to see what we can find. I did have coffee this morning, but I think it's wearing off, and it makes me a little bit tired because it hits my adrenals and then it crashes, and I'm like, oh. So I apologize for that. Let's see what we've got for Palestine. I don't even know if they give it a date. A mandatory Palestine 1920, geopolitical entity under British administration is what it says. So it says it's a sovereign state in the Middle East, the state of Palestine. Let me look that up. Proclaimed capital is Jerusalem. Oh, November, Declaration of Independence, November 15th, 1988. That's interesting because, that's a lot more recent than I thought. I guess I don't really follow it. I grew up with a lot of war on TV. So, and then, it was Vietnam in the early 60s and to, of course, early 70s when I grew up. And it was on the TV every night. I've mentioned this in the past too. But, for that whole time and then into current day, it's always been Middle East. And I always wondered why there was such focus on the Middle East. But of course, oil. Why else would it be? And so November 15th is a Scorpio state. And in this particular chart with Israel, of course, let me see, 15th of November. Yeah, the sun's going to be right on Chiron in the South Node. There is a karmic connection to that particular energy. And 88 was really just the beginning of, or probably the end of Pluto in Libra, and beginning not long after that in the 90s of Pluto in Scorpio. So there was a transitionary energy of balance of power, which is why that state was even created, I suppose. But the identity of Palestine, according to the date in Wikipedia, is really going to put the identity right on Chiron of Israel. So of course Israel with 21 degree Chiron is going to feel a wounding from that energy, and it's like poke, poke, poke. There is no healing. Neptune is in trine to that, which is probably exacerbating that as well, which I don't have in this chart, but it absolutely matters between the 21 degree Chiron in Israel's chart, the 22 degree Neptune of the current day, and then that trine to the sun with Neptune and Palestine. So, the other thing would be Uranus coming up on the North Node, and that's a very significant moment. Again, Uranus rules Aquarius, and so it's about the materiality of what's going on with the land and the independence of the land. So there are a lot of triggers going on in this chart. And then when Jupiter goes into Pisces today, we're going to see a lot more. It could be they will find ways of grabbing, like the oil will be a factor, and water will be a factor, and then emotions and emotionalism. So there's definitely going to be a shift in energy with what's going on with that Jupiter going into Pisces for a month and a half. And that will also potentially shift how we look at both sides of this conflict. And I think that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to just minimize that and go on to Liz Cheney. The reason I'm choosing Liz Cheney, of course, remember I'm American, and we've been going through this whole political machination for quite a while now, and it's just ramped up. Honestly, I was watching Mad Men yesterday, and the episode that I wrapped up with before I went to bed was the episode of November 22nd, November 23rd, 1963. And I think it was the 22nd. Now I've got to look it up. Kennedy assassination. And that actually happened in the show last night. And so, let's see, what does it say? 22nd. That's what I thought. My uncle was born on November 22nd. So that's one of the ways I always remember. I'm pretty sure it was 22nd. Again, interesting. Think about that. 22nd, the 22, the 21-22 axis keeps coming up in astrology. And this is another thing that Liz Cheney was born in the 60s. Her birthday is July 28th, 1966 at 5. Well, I've got a sunrise chart for her, 5:48 in Madison, Wisconsin. And so she was born with a 29 degree Pisces Saturn retrograde and Chiron at 25 Pisces as well. So of course Neptune is 3 degrees off her Chiron, but Neptune can be a very healing energy going across your Chiron. So with that being said, I really see that Neptune is going to push her more into the spotlight and really give her more idealized opportunities in her career. She's going to basically heal the wound that she has. I think Neptune is a wonderful energy for really diffusing any of the Chiron energy and really helping to heal the energy. And then in her chart, because she's got a Leo rising with the, Leo sun, so ergo Leo rising being a sunrise chart. She has a 4 degree Leo sun and a 5 degree, let me just swap it so I can make sure, 5 degree Leo Mercury. She's not afraid of a fight, and she is a leader. Leader is her identity. How she communicates is very larger than life. Look at her hair. I mean, she's got the blonde hair. Not surprising, very thick blonde hair, which is a Leo thing, the mane. Mars, she's in a Mars return also, so it's interesting that these charts I'm doing for you, there are returns going on to the degree. She has an 11 degree Mars in Cancer. Today, Mars is in Cancer at 11 degrees, which means, I take it back, it's at, where is it today? I just had the chart. I did the chart for Liz yesterday, the 12th, when she actually had the oust in the house oust. And so 11 degree Mars, that's where it was when she actually had that. And so she's got this energy, and I think it was building also from earlier in the month. She has Venus at 8 degrees Cancer. Mars was right on her Venus. That kind of awakened her Venus-Mars conjunction. And guess what? She has Jupiter at 18. Mars going through Cancer is going to hit her Jupiter soon enough. And of course, that is having foreign affairs and also expansion of the home and the energy around her drive. So let's just find out when that hits. Let's see. Mars at 18 Cancer will be Sunday, the 11th of July. Is that right? No, Venus hits that. Okay, Venus. No, I'm sorry. Venus hits her Cancer. Oh, that was her Leo. I'm sorry. Venus hits on the 21st of June, and Mars hits on the 30th and 31st of May for Liz. So she's really going to have a lot of concentrated energy on her Cancer and her Leo planets. So really in the near future, this year, she is really focusing her energy subconsciously, really seeing a connection to her mother energy and kind of the roar of the mother lion coming out. And when Mars hits Leo, she's not going to be held back. That woman has so much power in that part of her chart. She has a late degree Saturn in Pisces, so of course there's a really deep emotional connection that's being awakened in her. It would not surprise me. Saturn in Aquarius in her house of marriage and partnership. Jupiter is about to go into her house of commitment, which of course is the 8th house, and also legalities, but politics. So Jupiter is about to expand the sensitivities she has in politics, and it would not surprise me one bit if she really brings a strong voice of woman to politics. And I think her star is definitely on the rise. Uranus in Taurus is awakening her voice and saying, no, you're not going to just sit back. And remember, throat chakra is ruled by Taurus. So Aquarian energy is like the teacher that wants to get the collective, the awareness of the collective. So she's bringing that out to the collective. And also when they ousted her yesterday, her sun was on the North Node, a fated moment. And, that's really fascinating to me because the sun triggering that at the last 2 degrees of her house of career in this sunrise chart. So 22-degree North Node in Liz Cheney's chart. Big moment for her, and it's not the end moment. It's definitely an awakening moment for her. Okay, a lot of the energy in her chart, it's Pisces, Taurus, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. She's got the conjunction of Pluto, Uranus in her chart. Being born in 1966, that was when Uranus and Pluto joined up in Earth. And then Neptune and Scorpio. She's just not going to suffer fools gladly, this woman. She's very, very potent. And then she has a moon in Sagittarius, which says she has a strong connection to people of other cultures. And I think that she's going to be going through an awakening. Neptune getting closer and closer to her Saturn in Pisces. She does have a final degree Saturn in Pisces, so she's going to be around a long time. And it's also in spirituality and education. So her spiritual side is only going to get stronger and stronger. And looking at all the water energy in her chart, Neptune in Scorpio, Venus, Mars, Jupiter in Cancer in the 12th house of Pisces, and Saturn in Pisces, she's really awakening to the feminine side of how things go. And it doesn't surprise me in the least that she is going up against Trump, because she's saying, no, this is not okay. And it's really interesting, over the course of Trump's career, he went up against a woman to get the presidency. He was against Hillary Clinton. He has issues with Pelosi and now Liz Cheney. So women are in Trump's chart very strongly. I'm only going to bring them up briefly because I know where this falls. It falls in his house of the collective, and also his 12th house. And he's got some serious karmic issues going on with women in his chart if you want to look him up. I'm not going to give you his birth information. You're going to have to look it up. But yeah, he's got some, every time we come into this time of year, he is awakened because of the Gemini energy. So you will see him more often during Gemini and Leo energy of the charts. So just know, and then a retrograde Pluto in Capricorn is really triggering the dictator energy. If you haven't noticed it, it's really, coming out all over the globe. And I know Netanyahu, pretty sure he's the one, I think he's the prime minister of Israel right now, kind of stole that, but that'll probably get me flagged too, or whatever. Finally, hang on one second. Finally, the Colonial Pipeline hack. We have the energy of the Colonial Pipeline hack I wrote down for noon in Alpharetta, Georgia, as apparently there was a data breach of, I think they said 100 gigabytes of information at about noon in Alpharetta, Georgia, with the Colonial Pipeline, and that happened May 6th of 2021. That gives it a 2-degree Leo rising with, basically the same planetary positions that we have today, because it was just a week ago, but I'll go over it with you. It was Uranus at 11 degrees Taurus, Sun was at 16 Taurus, Venus at 27 degrees Taurus, Mercury at 4 degrees Gemini, Moon at 19 Pisces, and Neptune at 22 Pisces, which of course also connect to the coronavirus energy. Again, these big 22-degree fated nodes of fate moment are going on. 11, which is really interesting. 11, so we've got the nodes of fate on that day at 11, which is 1-1. If you think about it, Gemini is the sign of the twins, and so the sign for Gemini is the ones with the Roman numeral, kind of looks like a 2 in Roman numeral, and that's the sign of Gemini. It was at 11, so 11 and 11 of the Gemini, and then we also had 22 for Neptune, and let's see what else. Uranus was at 11, and so there's a lot of interesting energy numerologically going on at that point, but it means 2. And to me, that really resonates to duality and duplicity going on. 2 factions. I would honestly say Mars is in Cancer at this moment. Mars is homeland, Mars in Cancer is homeland, but it's the house of hidden enemies with Pluto retrograding. Remember, Pluto retrograded last week as well, I believe. Let me just look. It retrograded on the 27th, and this happened on May 6th. So literally within a week of Pluto retrograding, and that's in the house of open enemies, the 6th house. Hidden enemies opposite open enemies. And so I do think that there is some kind of institution going on within America and also another foreign entity. Obviously, they're saying now, and I don't know how true it is, they're saying that there's a Russian connection to the hacking. Wouldn't surprise me. And then, of course, Jupiter at 2907 of Aquarius in the 8th house of Scorpio, which again is that hidden, as Jupiter's getting ready to go into Pisces. Oil, Moon in Pisces is oil. Neptune, ruler of Pisces, oil. So the connection between the Moon and Neptune. And then that's the oil gasoline connection. And then Mercury in Gemini is the means with which we get it out, is the roads, the traveling, the trucking, the ability to bring it to the people. Again, Uranus, Sun, Venus were in Taurus, which is the merchandising and promotion of the product. Gemini is the transport of the product to the people. Mercury at 4 degrees when this happened, and currently, and then North Node was at 11, and right now we have the North Node at 10. Moon went to 4 degrees of Gemini, 14. Slow down. Moon, Mercury at 14, which is 3 degrees past the node at the time the pipeline was hacked. So that shows us that now the moon indicates a flow of movement. And when it will resolve, Moon joining with Mercury. Remember, Mercury at 4 degrees, trining Pluto that day, but also squaring Jupiter. And let's see, I think those are the main things that I'm seeing. I don't have the asteroids going on. I'm sure there is a connection to the asteroids as well, but I don't have it on this chart. So interestingly, again, Taurus, the materiality of it, the goods of it, the product of gasoline, Mercury transport to the location, and trucking is affected, as well as transportation, interstate transportation, which is Gemini. And then also Mars in the 12th house, Mars in Cancer, affecting us in a homeland. But really, the Moon Neptune conjunction in Pisces, very strong indicator of what went on at that point around oil and gasoline. Okay, and as far as technology, the Sun Uranus connection there within 5 days. So it's interesting that I think something was going on that they didn't notice about 5 days before it actually became open to the public, because the Sun joined Uranus at 11 degrees, but we also had the new moon. So the new moon was Tuesday. I think that's also when we really found out about it. But I think something was going on. Obviously, they were planning and plotting behind the scenes, but there was definitely some inroads being made when the Sun joined up with Uranus in Taurus earlier. And we just found out about it when the Sun went past Uranus. So it was a little bit of a delay. I'm looking at this chart going, yeah, a little bit of a delay. I even think that Venus let me see, where was she? She was in conjunct or trine. No, Venus was trine to Pluto when Pluto went retrograde. And then, she was 1 degree past when Alpharetta was hit. But definitely she was part of that exact connection to Pluto when it went retrograde. So I think there was a delay about information given to the public. It's kind of always the case. Things go on behind the scenes. We don't really even learn about it for a little while. So yeah, people know what's going on. They just don't necessarily tell us. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. Anything else coming up here? Let me look and see the rest of the week. We've got, I'm all over the place here. So the new moon, Jupiter in Pisces, really making us more sentimental, emotional. We're going to be dreamy and tired. It's going to affect connection to maybe that sentimentality associated with our country of origin or ancestry. Genealogy is part of this. The film industry, definitely, I think anybody releasing movies tomorrow is going to have, I think, a phenomenal run with whatever movie they present to the public. I think also Taylor Swift comes out with a new album, a new redone album very soon. And I have a suspicion she talks with an astrologer, because she always seems to hit it at a good time. And so Jupiter in Pisces is the connectedness we collectively have to sentimentality, and because it's Jupiter, it's going to be foreign energy and higher understanding, the sage, the spiritual movement. Places that are strongly connected into Jupiter and Pisces will be affected right now. I want to say Sedona possibly, and definitely LA. I think we're going to see more stories come out around Los Angeles and the ocean. Of course, I found out they dumped 36,000 barrels of DDT, a very highly toxic chemical. I think it's a fungicide or an herbicide or something in the Pacific Ocean that they just did since like 1938, just dumping those barrels. So that kind of thing is, going to rise up in our collective consciousness with Jupiter going into Pisces. Jupiter normally doesn't, it likes Pisces because it's a co-ruler, but I definitely associate Jupiter with Sagittarius, which squares Pisces. So there's going to be kind of a dual feeling of not wanting to go to the depths, not wanting to be that emotionally involved, but at the same time connecting the masses and people of different cultures. And I think because Jupiter going into Pisces is really going to affect what's going on in Israel and Palestine as well. And I think it could dampen, and maybe that just means that they're going to have a lot of rain. But rain is representational of emotion in the weather systems. So We'll probably also get heightened weather issues, especially with Saturn in trine to the Moon Mercury energy. Look for tonight storms and electrical weather. It can also mean, I'm just trying to give you kind of a predictive energy of what you can expect from these triggers. Definitely Jupiter going into a new sign. We've been getting that in December every year, but here it falls right in the middle of the year. So we're going to get that really strong energy that Jupiter can bring, and it's an expansive energy. It can also be transformative and transitional. I do think that we're going to hear about people in the film industry passing away, because that's what Jupiter and Pisces rules, and it's Jupiter and it's Pisces. So probably an elderly energy, or even, I mean, interestingly, Bill Gates just announced his divorce this week as well. So Jupiter is the transformation of technology to something more visceral in our bodies and in our collective consciousness. So it's a transmutation of energy. I could go on and on, but just know that education, higher spirituality, water, people of other cultures, how we look at races, how we look at integration. Pisces wants to integrate, break down walls. It's going to use water, and it's going to use emotion to do it. Look for those two things to really pop up. More dreams, more heightened awareness of what goes on in our dream life. And let me see if there's anything else. Pisces, it rules film. It rules photography and the photographic memory. It's memories. It brings back up the memories. It's people from the past coming back in, and an expansion of an awareness of someone else's emotional life. So with that being said, I'm going to go get some lunch, and I wish you the best week. If you're having a difficult time integrating this, do meditate. That's a wonderful energy. Listen to music, create something, paint something. Spend some time alone. Go to nature. Nature's a good counterbalance. Pisces opposite Virgo. Counterbalance your emotions. And it's also cooperative energy with Taurus. So water and earth get along really well. So do either water things and earth things. So pull yourself away or get in touch with nature. Be creative. It's okay to be sentimental. It's okay to cry. And we're going to be doing that for the next month and a half, probably. Anyway, I wish you the best and bless you. Take care. See you next week. Bye.
To the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.